When Crow was white, he decided the sun was too white. He decided it glared much too whitely. He decided to attack it and defeat it. He got his strength flush and in full glitter. He clawed and fluffed his rage up. He aimed his beak direct at the sun's centre. He laughed himself to the centre of himself and attacked. At his battle cry, trees grew suddenly old, shadows flattened. But the sun brightened. It brightened, and Crow returned charred black. He opened his mouth, but what came out was charred black. Up there, he managed, where white is black and black is white, I won. That is Ted Hughes's Crowfall. Welcome to Stories in Colour, a podcast from the National Gallery searching for histories of how colour has changed the world. Today we're on a hunt with artists through time for the blackest black, the deepest black, the most accurate blacks, the most atmospheric black pigments. I'm Beks from the digital department here at the National Gallery, and with me today is our guest, Stuart Semple. Stuart is a multidisciplinary British artist whose work spans painting, performance, internet art and installation. His work is known for its vibrant use of colour and innovative techniques that challenge societal norms and question the role of the artist. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, good to be here.
Thank you so much for being here with us. As I've introduced, we're on the topic of black and specifically black pigments today, but we probably need to start with what black is. And I've got a couple of quotes from Pierre-Auguste Renoir, French artist, who said, "I've been 40 years discovering that the queen of all colours was black." But he also said, "Nature knows only colours. White and black are not colours." Is black a colour?
Okay, it's a bit of a murky subject, isn't it? Because actually it's kind of the absence of colour, at least sort of scientifically. Yeah. But you and me definitely see something and point at it and say that is black. And I think we relate to it like we relate to colours.
I agree,
it probably is. There's
like
a
visual sensation of seeing black.
Yeah.
And there's black on an artist's palette. Common sense says to us that it's a colour, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess strictly speaking, scientifically, it gets categorised as achromatic, so like a colour without a hue. So grey and white would be in that category as well.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. We'll go back in time to look at how far back have humans used black paint.
Yeah, interesting.
And it's far, isn't it?
It goes right back.
It goes all the way back.
I mean, it kind of starts when we start cooking things and heating things.
Making fire.
We're making fire and we're preparing food. And this is kind of how sort of charcoal comes to exist, really. But there's almost something mystical and magical about the material because, of course, it's giving us life. We're eating this food. It's giving us warmth. So when we sort of excavate really early civilizations, we're finding charcoal in all of these places. And it's not long after we start drawing with it.
Yeah. And so charcoal being kind of organic matter that's been burned up in a fire.
Yeah, but not just burn in a very specific way. So it's burned without oxygen around it. So it doesn't just burn into flames.
It doesn't burn out, yeah.
No, we want to oxidise it and take out some of these sort of other particles to leave the charcoal. That's when it's useful.
Yeah. I love that kind of early association between like the darkness of the charcoal but the light of the fire.
Yeah.
And that kind of contrast that this very early pigment material for art comes kind of out of light.
Yeah, and you want to think of like early cave drawings are really interesting, and obviously the caves would have been dark, so there would have been fire present when they were drawing on them. Yeah. So this play of light and dark and shade and shadow is really powerful.
Yeah, totally. I'm thinking of the Lascaux caves in the southwest of France in the Dordogne. Maybe we should describe them. There's all of these animals, aren't they, on the walls of the caves?
I think when we talk about the caves, I think there's about 600 different images in the caves. So there's not just animals, there's like handprints, there's sort of abstract forms. And they're really fascinating because they were sort of discovered by 4 teenagers roaming around with their dog. And the story is the dog runs in a hole and they don't know where it is, and then they sort of go and realise there are these caves. They come back later with some lamps. Can you imagine being a teenager and just uncovering this sort of treasure trove?
Amazing.
Incredible.
I think they maybe started like selling tickets to go into
I heard
the
that. I
caves
don't know if that's true.
I don't know if
surprise
that's just
me.
a story, but
yeah, I think they
obviously
might have done.
eventually there was an archaeologist who,
did it properly.
verified that they were actually Paleolithic
and I think
drawings.
they're something like 17,000 years old, those drawings, they reckon.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, discovered in September 1940. So yeah.
Which is my birthday. September the 12th they were discovered, which is why I remember it. Not 1940. I'm a bit younger than that.
That's so nice. That's a lovely,
cool, isn't it?
That's a really cool thing to share a birthday with.
Yeah.
And you can't actually, I don't think you can visit them today because, concerns around the light and the preservation of them.
I think they locked them down in the 60s, but
Yeah,
they've made a replica. So you can still go up there and see something,
And maybe we should say so it's not just black line drawings from charcoal. There's also red earth pigments, brown earth.
Yes, there is,
pigments as well. The ones that I remember most of the ones of the cattle with the big horns. And
the sort of hunting scene, isn't it?
They're very animate, and these are like original outlines, drawings. And I think that this is like an artist's artifice that we kind of don't really think about as being an artifice. Like the idea of doing an outline of something to create a drawing. But obviously we're not outlined in real life, are we?
And I remember my art teachers used to really get at me for outlining everything.
Really?
And of course we draw as kids, don't we, like cartoons, and the outline is everything. But the real world isn't outlined.
No. Yeah, it's interesting how artists have done that through history, I guess. Like you think of Leonardo da Vinci and all his drawings, or even getting later into more modern art with Degas and the kind of black outlines that Impressionists start using.
I mean, Degas almost a cartoon sometimes, those drawings, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he does something really interesting with his line. It's not just an outline. There's sort of emotion in it. There's variance in it. And then when he uses soft pastels with it, he can blend that black line, and then we start to get more of a flow in it. So it's quite interesting.
And interesting that it is typically black, I think.
Yeah.
That artists are using as outlines. I wonder if there's something that we feel is neutral about the colour in that sense, because it's achromatic. I don't know, or maybe it's the strength of it. I don't know.
It's kind of the finiteness of a line between this is fantasy, this is reality, this is the object, this is the rest of the world. We'll draw a hard, fast line of nothingness between the two things. It may be something like that.
Yeah, I like that. We've talked a bit about charcoal. We should say that's a kind of carbon black. So not carbon in the sense of diamonds, but carbon in the sense of it burned.
Yeah, it's carbonised.
Carbonised. Maybe we just look at a few examples of things that were burned through history for artists to use as pigments. So bone black.
Course,
quite an obvious one. Don't really need to explain how that
bones.
Don't really need to explain how that gets made. Ivory black,
course,
by charring ivory. One that obviously we wouldn't want to be doing.
Thank goodness we're not doing that anymore
today. Lamp black. I feel like this is the one that's less obvious.
Is it? Soot from a...
Yeah, but it's not the lamp that's burned.
No, okay. We're not saying we're not burning lamps.
No, but the soot, it gets...
But we are using the soot.
Yeah. I think it gets added to like gum and water, and you can get an ink out of it.
Yes.
I love this one. This one is so specific. Peach stone black.
Yeah, I love that. I haven't heard of that before. Yeah. So what are we doing? Just burning a load of peach stones?
Charring a load of peach stones.
I wonder how different it looks from some of these other ones, or whether they all are pretty similar.
There's descriptions of how artists were choosing them for their different qualities. Charcoal is a bit bluer in tone.
Okay.
Bone black is a bit more saturated. Lamp blacks, like you can kind of imagine from the soot, is very fine. Like the particles are really fine in that, so it handles quite differently, I think. The final example I had was vine black. Was apparently a really favoured source for oil paints. So artists, I guess, were aware of these differences between carbon blacks. But let's look at an example of somebody who was very expert in black fabrics. The artist Frans Hals.
Yes, okay.
One of his most famous works, The Laughing Cavalier.
Of course.
He does look quite cavalier, doesn't he?
He looks cavalier and he looks extremely happy, doesn't he? He's very joyful.
Very joyful. He's got a real turned up little moustache, brown moustache.
Rosy red cheeks.
Very rosy.
And of course this black hat is the
extravagant
thing,
black hat.
Yeah, massive floppy thing.
We've got a plain grey background behind the portrait. It's sort of a portrait from the waist up. He's wearing a massive white ruff, lace ruff. And
a very ornate garment, isn't it? It's got everything, all sorts of colours and embroidery, and it's very opulent.
Neutral colours, I think we would probably describe them as, say, browns and white. The black is so varied to create that sash around him, isn't it? I think Van Gogh said Frans Hals must have had 27 blacks.
I bet he was jealous. He was always desperate for paint, wasn't he? Well, I think the sash is coming to life because it's got a lot of personality. It's got real flow and form to it, and that's being brought out by the different tonality in all these blacks. And that's giving it a real sense of not just form but movement, isn't it? And it's intersecting the sort of bottom third of the painting. Yeah. And it's interesting because your eye initially goes to the hat and its relationship with the grey background, but it's actually where you linger tends to be on that sash.
I would encourage people, we've got lots of Frans Hals in our collection, just not quite as famous an example as this one, which is why we choose this one to look at. But go and walk around the collection and look at how artists are depicting black fabrics, because I think we think of it as monochrome, right? We think of it as this kind of singular thing. It's
and
amazing
also
how fabrics...
We don't consider how light plays on black,
right?
You know, as it folds, as it casts a shadow, that there is depth and sort of nuance in black.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's one point where it becomes grey, and there's another point where it becomes pitch black, I suppose. But in between that, there's a lot going on, and you see that in drapery and well painted fabrics.
Especially, I guess, fabrics like satin that capture the light, or velvet that captures it in a very particular way.
Yeah, dream for artists to paint, and it's really fun painting that stuff.
Yeah. I think this is a really good point for us to have a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be back after the break to talk about somebody whose hero was Frans Hals. See you after the break. Welcome back from the break. We're looking at an artist whose hero was Frans Hals, who is John Singer Sargent. Could you tell us a little bit about how he was famous for using...
Well, I mean, I think one of the best examples is his Madame X painting, portrait of Madame X, isn't it? Yeah. In which we see a very elegant black dress painted, actually. And interestingly, the way he outlines, if you think of the painting of her, her face is almost in profile and it's almost got a black outline around the edge. And he really relied on black a lot. You can see in that painting, he needs it. If you took the black away from him, he would probably completely and utterly freak out, wouldn't he? He wouldn't know what to do. Yeah,
there's so much synergy here, isn't there, in how the draping of her dress, comparing to Frans Hals, we can compare how the light is capturing on the folds of how it hangs around her waist, how it's darker on the bodice.
We're seeing kind of this contrast. The black's used as a contrasting element, which draws the attention to the skin tone, actually, in this one. And a lot of artists use black like that to draw our attention almost away from it. But it's interesting how Sargent uses it here, because we've almost got this love heart across her chest, haven't we? Yeah. Which is almost a void black, like a black hole through her heart.
Because her skin is very pale.
It is
against
very pale.
It.
Mm-hmm. It's that contrast that's really powerful in this one, I think.
And she looks very fashionable to me now. Would she have looked very fashionable at the time?
I don't know, but it is sort of the epitome of elegance, isn't it? This sort of chic black dress. It's very refined. It's very elegant, very sophisticated.
Very sophisticated. And this was painted using bone black, actually, that we talked about before, as well as other pigments like earth colours. We have a Sargent actually in the gallery's collection, Lord Ribblesdale, who's also wearing black. So an artist definitely very reliant on black. Oh, he was really
into it.
There's actually a story about Sargent and Monet, Claude Monet, the French impressionist. Sargent couldn't believe that Monet didn't have a single black pigment on his palette. And I guess, when we think about Monet, that contrast of an artist that, you don't think of black at all. I don't know. I think it's interesting that an artist can kind of be not defined by, but really captured by a colour like black. And Sargent so clearly was. Yeah, the Impressionists are more linked to chromatic blacks.
Yeah, I think that's the point. So I think when Sargent goes over to see Monet, I mean, Sargent's obsessed with Impressionists. I mean, he's a huge fan. So I think when he goes to meet Monet, it's like seeing one of his idols.
Yeah.
So he's, being as though he's so reliant on black, seeing like none on his palette at all. And of course, when we talk about chromatic blacks, maybe we should explain kind of what the idea is in that, using pure black straight out the tube doesn't really have the subtlety and nuance that maybe we want as artists. So if we start mixing together contrasting colours, from other ends of the colour wheel, I'm getting a bit geeky.
Complementary colours, these, aren't they?
Yeah. If we start bringing the complementary colours together that from the other ends of the colour wheel, they sort of cancel each other out and they make blacks that we can control a little bit more. So we can make them a bit warmer, a bit cooler, and they've got a bit more nuance in the surface. Because actually, if you get real pure black, say carbon black on your brush, it can make the whole painting very, very muddy. Yeah. And that's why at school we were probably told, at least I was, don't use black, put it away, because it can just take over everything. Yeah. So mixing these chromatic blacks really helps us. But let's not forget, Monet didn't exactly do that. He would use a lot of colours in his shadows. We see purples in the shadows and blues and things. And the Impressionists played that trick a lot.
Definitely. Those colourful shadows.
Exactly.
I think that's quite a common story, actually. I think we hear from artists that at art school they are taught don't use black from the tube.
Yeah. You get in a lot of trouble for that. Make your own black, like proper artists.
To go back to Madame X and black dresses, originally in kind of Western cultures, black would be very much associated with mourning.
Exactly, yeah.
And sadness, and it wasn't really until the late 19th century and you start getting people like Madame X wearing black very fashionably that kind of it was freed from this just being about mourning and became about kind of chicness. So I guess the most famous example of that would be Coco Chanel's little black dress from the 1920s.
Absolutely, yeah.
Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's in the 60s. I was thinking about why black is seen as like a very flattering colour. And I think it is because of how it absorbs light.
Yes, it definitely absorbs light and it changes the silhouette.
Yes.
But it does draw attention, but in a sort of subtle way. And you can see how maybe we moved from a process of wearing it in mourning and reverence from something sombre. It sort of kept that understatedness, that respectableness, and then sort of morphs into something that may be seen as elegant.
It kind of contours the figure, I guess.
It does.
And creates texture kind of becomes less visible. Even when it's velvet or satin, I think you do get the light playing with it, but the texture of what you're wearing becomes less visible, I think. We're going to talk a bit more about how light interplays with black or is absorbed by black.
Yeah, that's really important, isn't it? Otherwise we're not going to understand what it is.
We're going to go, we've gone really early in human history. We're going to go right back to the start now.
The start?
The start.
Well, none of us knows what the start was. We can have a go.
We can have a go. Christians, of course, believing that God created the heaven and earth, and those famous opening lines of Genesis. Lots of Near Eastern mythologies, in fact, many mythologies from all across the globe, start with a void, blackness, darkness.
Yeah.
I think that is so interesting that there is this kind of very human idea that it all starts in total darkness, pitch black.
Yeah,
was the way you described it. I think, a colour that would come to mind.
Yeah, so before the light, what is the absence of light? It can only be black. The only thing we can picture is probably black vastness.
I'm going to read the start of Genesis, actually, because I think these are such famous verses and have been so impactful. This is the King James Version. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Apparently that that word for darkness in Hebrew is a really like guttural word. It's really like almost dissonant, a sense of a kind of primordial gloom at the start of the world.
I think in the sort of ancient Hebrew, it's like the absence of everything. They talk about this Ein Sof, there's something that has nothing. And then there's this divine spark inside it that starts to radiate.
One of the first depictions of this that I know about, an artist trying to capture the void, was Robert Flood. And he does this in 1617. So, yeah, we're going back quite a few hundred years now. And he does this, it's almost like a very early piece of abstract art. When you look at it, it's like a black square, just etched ink, where he's done like almost like cross-hatching to create a totally black square. And he surrounds it on all four sides of the square with the inscription in Latin, et sic in infinitum, and so on to infinity.
Wow, way ahead of his time.
So ahead of his time.
I had no idea.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't think we got there till the 1900s, but that's incredible.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the original black square. I mean, he's not an artist. He's trying to kind of almost scientifically convey what he felt the darkest of dark imaginable beginnings of the world are. And he drew on both Egyptian, Greek creation myth and the Genesis passage that we just read. An Englishman kind of almost doing proto-abstract art in the early 17th century. Kind of cool. We're taking a break. So yeah, afterwards we're going to get into the real search, as we said at the beginning, for the blackest black. And we're going to dive into more scientific applications of how black has been used and created almost. So we're on the hunt for the blackest black.
Yeah.
But we should probably touch more scientifically now. We asked whether black was a colour.
Yes.
At the start. But what does that really mean in terms of scientifically what is black?
Yeah, what's actually going on?
Exactly.
Well, what's going on when you perceive any colour is light is bouncing off an object, it's going into your eyes, and you're perceiving it. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on with linguistics and our neurology, but we won't go into that. So a red thing bounces red light at you, and you that thing's red. A black body, a black thing, is actually not bouncing light back to your eyes at all. It's almost absorbing it. We perceive that as black. It's almost the absence of light.
Yes.
And it all kind of starts when Isaac Newton gets a prism, like a bit of glass. You think of that Pink Floyd album cover for Dark Side of the Moon. White light goes in one side, and the other side we see a spread, which we call the spectrum. And we see all these different colours that make up white. But Isaac Newton obviously realises there's no black there. So where is it? What's going on? What's this missing thing? And scientists are fascinated by that, of course.
So a true black would reflect no light at all because all of the photons are absorbed. And so, most of the blacks we see, there's some reflected back and perceived by the human eye.
Absolutely. And like carbon blacks even, they've got a sheen to them. They are reflecting some light. So, the ultimate black hole, if you like, in space sucks all the light into it, doesn't
100% of light.
Yeah. Nothing's getting back.
And that makes it quite a hard thing, I guess, for manufacturers to reproduce, especially for artists to reproduce. That idea of total blackness. But people have been really trying, haven't they?
People have been really, really trying. So the first sort of example we saw was a material called Vantablack, which came out in about 2016. And a lab called Surrey Nanosystems created it in a lab, in a vacuum chamber.
In Britain, in Britain.
Yes, here in the UK. And what they did was they worked out they could grow these carbon nanotubes on a surface. So to put that in English, if you think of smaller than a white blood cell, that's a nanoparticle, tiny,
gosh, so
less than a bit of hair, that small. So imagine a forest of those all stood up on their end. When the light goes into it, it bounces around and it can't come back out. And
it's a trap.
It's a light trap that's
Yeah.
a bit like a forest. So
Okay.
they call that Vantablack, vertically aligned nanotube array, Vanta. And that's what they created, the blackest black. And in those days, they wanted to use it in lots of applications for space exploration, inside of telescopes, military uses, things like that.
I found this cool quote actually from, I don't know if they got it right, but an American drama series called Fleischman is in Trouble recently talked about Vantablack. Let's fact check them, see if they got it right. Vantablack was lab created material that was said to be the darkest black in existence. It was created for the military to help hide satellites and jets from detection, and it is so dark that you're not even allowed to use it legally. It is the closest you can get to a physical manifestation of the void.
Yeah, that's not quite right.
It's not quite right, is it?
It's almost right.
They've almost got it.
Okay, so it wasn't made to get rid of satellites. It was actually made to stop stray light in telescopes.
Okay.
So
to make them more like accurate.
Yeah,
or...
so the blacker the inside of a telescope, the further you can see because there's not stray light. And it's the same for cameras. But there's lots of applications. So they're developing it for lots of stuff. Yeah. It's not illegal to use it at all. Car companies have used it. Deodorant companies. Buildings have been sprayed.
Deodorant?
Yeah.
How deodorant companies used it?
As like a sort of branding, marketing kind of thing.
I was going to say.
A whole building, the architect, Asif Khan, couple of Olympics ago did a whole building coated in the stuff. So no, it's not illegal to use it unless you're an artist.
Tell me more.
There's only one artist in the world who's allowed to use it, and that's Sir Anish Kapoor, who has the exclusive rights to use it in art.
Okay.
So everyone else can use it. If you apply to Surrey Nanosystems, they'll coat something
for
unique
any other
for
use.
You. Yes, unless it's art. The minute you tell them you want to make art with it, they won't let you do it.
We should say Anish Kapoor, sculptor, known for his mirrored cloud gate in Chicago, sometimes called the Chicago Bean.
Yeah.
Is that right? Closer to home, the Helter Skelter Orbit Tower in London's Olympic Park. But yeah, tell me more about how artists have kind of reacted to this kind of single person being able to use...
The art community was quite upset about it because it felt very exclusive to a lot of people. And I think a lot of people couldn't understand it. I mean, it's not a paint. You can't just dip your brush in it and paint away with it.
Okay.
You know, this is a complicated lab process.
Yeah.
But the fact is, artists are still excluded because they are artists from accessing it when other people can. So it did feel a bit unfair.
Was that how, Nanosystems, is that how they justified it, that it was such a kind of complicated material to use that...
At the time, they justified it in a couple of ways. They said, we can't make much of it and it's hideously expensive.
Yeah.
They also said that Sir Anish has dedicated his life to exploring pigments and the void and the absence of form. So he's an obvious choice of someone to work with.
Right.
So that was their approach to that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's many other artists who are exploring similar things. Has he actually been using it? Has Anish Kapoor
Yeah, so we waited almost a decade and then finally Anish unveiled his sculptures that he made a couple of Venice Biennales ago, and he showed a series of objects that he'd coated in Vantablack. And these are kind of like cubes and spherical objects that appear almost flat because it sucks up so much light. It makes 3D things look almost like a hole in space. It's an amazing visual effect. So he did that, and then he's had another show in New York of those as well. So yeah, he's been using it.
You've been working on something to give artists more opportunity to use something like the blackest black in Vantablack.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I've been making paint since I was about 8 years old. And
You've been making paint from scratch?
Yeah,
since you were 8
I was a
years
kid.
old.
So I've always been making paint to use in my own work and my shows and things.
I love that.
And when Anish got the exclusive rights to the blackest black, I released the pinkest pink on the internet.
Okay.
And I let anyone in the world use it apart from Anish Kapoor. And off the back of that, a lot of people started writing to me saying I had to try and create a black as good as his. So I've spent the last 8 or 9 years of my life trying to make super blacks. And I'm now up to version 4 of my black, which is called Black 4.0.
Okay.
And it's a really great super black. It absorbs 99.8% of visible light. It comes in a bottle. It is affordable. Hundreds of thousands of artists are using it for great work that wasn't possible before. And it is absolutely a paint. It's very different than Vantablack because Vantablack, interestingly, absorbs a lot more light.
Okay.
But the light it's absorbing is outside the visual spectrum.
Okay.
Because our eyes can only see so much.
Yeah.
And at one end, we've got the infrared and we've got the ultraviolet at the other end.
Yeah.
So my paint focuses on what we can actually see. Because as artists, that's what matters. So if you put mine and his in a lab, his is going to win.
Yes.
But if you look at it with your eyes, they're about the same.
That is really interesting. I hadn't realised that about your pigments, that the sensation of seeing them is pretty similar.
Yeah, because we're talking about art, and art is measured with eyes. We look at paintings and sculptures. We don't walk around galleries with spectrometers measuring things, do we?
Sometimes our scientific department do, I think, to make sure the paintings are protected. But I think they're an exception. I think they're definitely an exception. Hundreds, thousands of artists are using this pigment. What has the reaction been like?
People love using it because they haven't had access to anything like that before. And
Yeah.
it really is completely different from the other blacks. And I sort of think about art history, and I go back to sort of Caravaggio and people like that. And I think, gosh, if they'd have had a black this deep, it would have been really exciting. So people are really getting into it. And there's so much cool stuff being made every day with it that just kind of wasn't possible before.
This is a complete side note, but we asked our scientific department about the Caravaggios in our collection because we were thinking of them for this episode. Apparently, they're more like brown. We think of Caravaggio as the backgrounds as
Are they?
deep black, but
Well, iron oxide has a very brown undertone, doesn't it?
Yeah, they do have black pigments in them, but because of the way they're mixed, if you look really closely, maybe this is only under a microscope, but
Wow.
they're more.
I don't perceive them like that at all.
No. The visual sensation of them is complete darkness, isn't it? In the backgrounds. Sorry, to go back to your pigments. Have you been using them in your work as well?
Yeah, I've used them a few times. One of the pieces I made was a sculpture, which was a big black room that you sat in for 5 minutes in complete darkness. You had no sense of space at all. And then 5 minutes later, a light would come on so that you could leave. And it was quite meditative. Sort of very inspired by Rothko, actually.
Okay.
His
chapel.
His chapel, which is in Texas. You know, these big black field paintings are massive.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's this sort of transcendental, meditative, takes you into another realm. So I'm really interested in that.
And how it makes you feel and
It's
what
the
the
feeling,
experience of it is like. In this hunt for the blackest black, scientifically, MIT have made a material that they say absorbs at least 99.995% of incoming light.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this one?
Yeah.
The diamond
that's
been covered in this blackest black material. It's called the redemption of vanity. I do quite like that contrast of a diamond, which is normally so sparkly, and the whole thing with a diamond, right, is how much it reflects the light and plays with it in its light and brightness. And yeah, that is quite cool, that idea of almost completely hiding the kind of nature of something.
I think it's brilliant. But what's so funny is all these people squabbling for a percentage of a percentage to get, you know, some sort of award for the blackest thing. Because after some point, we just can't tell the difference.
On that note, we are done. We're done with
Right.
That's the last bit of the podcast. Actually, we're done with the main part. We do have our question from the audience.
Oh.
So yeah, now's time for, we ask our audiences whether they've got any questions for us about the topics that we've been looking at. And one person on YouTube has asked, are there any historical black pigments that are no longer used because either the black pigment was toxic or it's now unavailable / unethical to use as a paint pigment?
Well, I think it's got to be the ivory black, hasn't it?
It has.
As we said before, thank goodness.
Thank goodness that that's no longer in use. I can't actually think of any black pigments that are renowned for being toxic. Maybe there is. Listeners, you can tell us if you can think of any. But yeah, I think ivory black is the best example of one. Okay, well that does bring us to the end of today's episode. If you, the listeners, have got any more questions that you want to ask us about the story of colour, you can email us on podcast@nationalgallery.org.uk, or you can send us messages on social media. Just mention the podcast, and we will try and answer some of those for you in our next series of Stories in Colour. So thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. And with Huge thanks to our guest, Stuart Semple. I have been your host, Beks from the Digital Department here at the National Gallery. Our producer was Harry Rosehill. Our researcher was Hannah Rogers. Our scientific advisor was Marika Spring. Our technicians were Ian Warren, Tom Gulliver and Timothy Carpenter. Our video producer was Jeanne Kenyon. Thanks for listening.